The conference hall floated in the void between stars, a massive structure of crystal and light that had stood unchanged for 2,000 years. Inside, the Supreme Council of the Sovereign Collective sat in their designated positions, just as their ancestors had done for generations beyond counting. 7 species, 7 seats of power, 7 voices that had not disagreed on anything substantial in centuries. Commander Velthar stood at attention before them, his forearms clasped behind his back in the traditional posture of respect. His silver skin reflected the soft glow of the chamber, and his 3 eyes remained fixed on the central podium where High Arbiter Komix materialized. The Arbiter was not truly present. None of them ever were anymore. They existed somewhere else, in a place the lesser species could not understand, appearing only as projections when needed. "Report?" The Arbiter's voice echoed through the chamber. Neither male nor female, neither young nor old. It simply was, as unchanging as everything else in the galaxy. Velthar accessed his data tablet, though he had memorized every word. Patrol vessel Morning Light detected gravitational anomalies in Sector 447. The readings match no known natural phenomenon. Upon investigation, they discovered spatial distortions consistent with— He paused, knowing how absurd this would sound. Consistent with large-scale materialization of matter. One of the council members, a gelatinous being from the Hresh Collective, rippled with what might have been amusement. Materialization? Commander, matter does not simply appear. Perhaps your patrol crew requires recalibration? Velthar had expected this response. The crew has been evaluated. Their equipment has been tested. The readings are accurate. He gestured, and a holographic display filled the center of the chamber. At 400 hours GST, 8 planetary bodies and 1 star appeared in the precise coordinates of the Old Void. The chamber fell silent. The Old Void. Everyone knew that designation, even if most believed it was myth. The place where the phantom species had disappeared 2,000 years ago. Dr. Kessanir, standing in the observer's gallery, felt her respiratory organs constrict. She had spent her entire career studying the disappearance, combing through ancient records that most considered fiction. The humans, they were real, and now they were back. High Arbiter Komix did not move, but the temperature in the room dropped perceptibly. "Show us." The hologram shifted, displaying the patrol ship's sensor logs. There, unmistakable and impossible, was a yellow star. Around it orbited planets, rocky worlds, gas giants, and one blue marble that gleamed with oceans and white clouds. Earth. It had returned. "This is not possible," one council member whispered. "And yet it is happening," Velthar replied, his voice steady despite the tremor he felt in his core. "The system is exactly as the ancient records described. 9 planets, though one is barely more than a dwarf planet. The 3rd planet shows signs of advanced civilization, orbital structures, electromagnetic emissions, and what appears to be active spacecraft. Another council member, this one a crystalline being whose thoughts manifested as colored light, pulsed deep red. The humans violated the natural order. They attempted to break the speed of light using impossible technology. They paid the price, erased from existence. If this is truly their system, it must be a remnant, an echo of what was." Kessa could not contain herself any longer. She stepped forward from the gallery, breaking protocol. "With respect, Council Member Vixtal, we never confirmed they were erased. We only knew they vanished. The energy signature recorded at their disappearance was unlike anything seen before or since. What if they didn't die? What if they went somewhere else?" "Dr. Near," Velthar said, his tone warning her to retreat. But Kessa was beyond caution. This was the moment she had dreamed of since she was a juvenile, reading forbidden texts about the species that had almost changed everything. High Arbiter Komix turned its attention to her, and she felt the weight of its gaze like a physical pressure. The doctor raises a valid question. "Commander Velthar, what is the status of the human civilization if they indeed survived?" Velthar pulled up more data. "Long-range scans show extensive orbital infrastructure. We detect power signatures that our sensors cannot fully analyze. They appear to be using energy systems unknown to collective science. Their technology is active, innovative, developing." The last word hung in the air like a death sentence. Innovation was forbidden. Development beyond approved parameters was illegal. The collective had maintained perfect technological stasis for 2 millennia. ensuring peace through uniformity and control. The Great Balance, they called it. Every species had their designated role, their approved technology level, their place in the eternal order. And here was a species that had apparently spent 2,000 years developing freely. This is a violation of the Stillness Accords. Council member Vixtal pulsed angry orange. They must be brought into compliance immediately. They were not part of the Accords when they vanished, Kessa interjected. Technically, they owe us nothing. Silence. The Arbiter's voice cracked like thunder. Dr. Near, you forget yourself. Return to your station. Kessa retreated, but her hearts pounded with excitement and fear. She had been right all along. The humans had survived, and from what she could see in the sensor data, they had done more than survive. They had thrived. Velthar continued his report. We attempted standard first contact protocols. They responded immediately in the old galactic common language, though their dialect is archaic. They claim they have been waiting for this moment. They knew they would return. Knew? Another council member leaned forward. How could they know? They did not explain. They requested a formal diplomatic meeting. They were polite but firm. I have sent detailed translation matrices of the exchange to your systems. High Arbiter Komix was silent for a long moment. When it spoke again, its voice carried an edge Velthar had never heard before, something almost like concern. The humans were dangerous before. If they have spent 2,000 years unbound by the Stillness Accords, they may be exponentially more dangerous now. We must assess the threat level immediately. Shall I assemble a containment fleet? Velthar asked. Not yet. First, we send a delegation. We must understand what they have become. Commander, you will lead the contact team. Dr. Near, your expertise on the Phantom species makes you valuable for this mission. You will accompany him. Kessa's three-chambered heart skipped. Yes, High Arbiter. Thank you. Do not thank me, Doctor. If the humans prove to be a threat to the Great Balance, you may be leading us to war. The Arbiter's form began to fade. The Council will reconvene in 12 hours. Commander, you have until then to prepare your team, learn what the humans have become, and determine if they can be brought into compliance. The Arbiter vanished, and the Council members began to disperse, their forms dissolving into light as they returned to their homeworlds through quantum entanglement. Velthar stood alone in the chamber with Kessa. This is really happening, she whispered, staring at the holographic image of Earth. Yes, Velthar replied, and I fear we are not prepared for what it means. 12 hours later, Velthar's ship, the Eternal Harmony, dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the human solar system. It was a collective diplomatic vessel, unarmed as all ships were required to be, its hull gleaming white with the symbols of all 7 council species. Kessa stood on the bridge beside him, her eyes fixed on the view screen. There it was, Earth, the blue planet from the ancient records, more beautiful than any image had captured. Receiving a transmission, the communications officer announced. Audio and visual. They're using quantum channels. Commander, their communication technology is at least a century ahead of ours. Velthar felt cold. A century ahead in communications alone. What else had they achieved? Put it through. The view screen shifted, and for the first time in 2,000 years, a human face appeared before the galaxy. The woman had dark skin and kind eyes, her hair pulled back in a practical style. She wore a uniform that was simultaneously formal and functional, deep blue with silver accents. Greetings, she said in perfect modern galactic common, not the archaic version they had expected. I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Space Command. On behalf of humanity, I welcome you to our solar system. We've been expecting you. Velthar stepped forward. I am Commander Velthar of the Sovereign Collective. This is Dr. Kessa Near, our foremost expert on your species' history. We come in peace to understand what has transpired and to welcome you back to the galactic community. Sarah Chen smiled, and there was something in that expression that made Velthar uneasy. It was the smile of someone holding all the cards. Welcome back, she said. Commander, we never left. We've been right here, just elsewhere. But I appreciate the sentiment. I imagine you have many questions. Indeed. Perhaps we could meet in person. We would be honored to establish formal diplomatic relations. Of course. However, I should warn you, things have changed. Humanity has changed. We're not the species you remember from your historical records. Kessa spoke up, unable to contain her curiosity. Admiral Chen, can you tell us where you've been? The energy signature at your disappearance suggested dimensional displacement, but our science indicated it should have been fatal. Sarah's smile widened. Dr. Neer, is it? Yes, you're partially correct. We created a dimensional fold accidentally. We were attempting our first faster-than-light jump using experimental technology when something unexpected happened. Instead of moving through space, we moved through time and dimension. We've experienced 2,000 years in a space outside normal reality. For us, it's been 2 full millennia. We've built, we've learned, we've grown. Velthar felt his blood chill. 2,000 years of unconstrained development. 2,000 years of innovation without the Arbiter's control. That's remarkable, he managed. And you say you were expecting us? Oh yes. About 50 years ago, our time. We figured out how to calculate when the fold would collapse and return us to normal space. We've been preparing for this reunion ever since. We knew the galaxy would have questions. We knew there would be complications. Complications? Belthar asked. Sarah's expression grew serious. Commander, our initial surveys of nearby space have shown us something concerning. The galaxy has not progressed as we expected. In fact, technology levels appear to have been frozen. No new developments, no innovations, no advancement in 2,000 years. We find this deeply troubling. Velthar exchanged a glance with Kessa. They could not explain the stillness accords to this human, not yet. Not until they understood humanity's capabilities. The galaxy has found peace through stability, Velthar said carefully. Perhaps we should discuss this in person? Agreed. I'm transmitting coordinates for a meeting station we've established at the edge of our system. It's a neutral ground, comfortable for various species. We can meet there in 6 hours. Is that acceptable? It is. We will see you then, Admiral Chen. The transmission ended and Velthar slumped slightly, exhausted by the brief exchange. She knew, Kessa said quietly. She knew about the technological stagnation. She's already been scanning the galaxy. Yes, Velthar agreed, and she was not happy about what she found. Dr. Neer, I fear we are about to discover that the phantom species has returned as something far more formidable than we could have imagined. As the Eternal Harmony moved toward the human meeting coordinates, none of them noticed the subtle shimmer in space behind them. A human observation ship, invisible to collective sensors watching their every move. Aboard that ship, Captain Marcus Webb reviewed the data collected from the collective vessel systems. They're still using the same technology from 2,000 years ago, he reported to his tactical officer. No improvements, no innovations. Someone has been keeping them in a cage. Should we inform the Admiral? Marcus looked at the image of the collective ship on his screen. She already knows. She's known since we started scanning. The question is, what are we going to do about it? In the void between stars, the ancient Arbiter stations began to glow. Deep in spaces unknown to the lesser species, the true Arbiters stirred from their long complacency. They had felt the disturbance, the return of the species that should never have existed. The humans were back, and the galaxy's long stillness was about to shatter. The human meeting station hung in space like a crystal flower, its petals unfurling to reveal docking ports for various ship configurations. Velthar had never seen anything like it. The structure seemed to shift subtly, as if it existed partially in multiple dimensions at once. His sensors could barely track its full form. Commander, the station is extending a docking tunnel, his pilot reported. Their systems are interfacing with ours automatically. The compatibility is perfect, as if they designed it specifically for our vessel. They probably did, Kessa murmured beside him. They've had 50 years to prepare for this meeting. They've thought of everything. The Eternal Harmony docked smoothly and Velthar led his small delegation through the airlock. The moment he stepped into the station, he stopped. The corridor was breathtaking. The walls displayed what appeared to be live feeds of Earth, cities gleaming under sunlight, forests stretching endlessly, oceans sparkling. But it was more than images. He could smell the air, feel the temperature variations. It was as if pieces of Earth itself had been brought here. A human waited for them, a young man with Asian features and a warm smile. Welcome aboard Friendship Station. I'm Lieutenant Chen, no relation to the Admiral. He gestured down the corridor. If you'll follow me, Admiral Chen and her team are waiting in the primary conference chamber. We've adjusted the atmosphere to be comfortable for all species in your delegation. As they walked, Velthar noticed details that shouldn't be possible. The station's walls contained technology he couldn't identify. Energy flowed through conduits in patterns that violated known physics. And everywhere there were plants. Earth plants growing in small alcoves, adding oxygen and beauty to the environment. "Lieutenant," Kessa asked, "may I ask how this station was constructed? Our sensors indicate it was built recently, yet the complexity suggests years of work." The young man's smile widened. "We have construction techniques that speed up the process considerably. This station was assembled in about 3 weeks. Most of that time was spent on the artistic elements. We wanted to make a good impression." 3 weeks. Velthar felt another chill. The collective's fastest construction methods would need 3 months to build a station a tenth this size. They entered the conference chamber, and Velthar's breath caught. The room was enormous, with a round table at its center. But what drew his attention was the ceiling, a perfect holographic display of the galaxy itself, rotating slowly, showing every inhabited system, every space lane, every council world. Admiral Sarah Chen stood by the table, flanked by 2 other humans. One was a tall man with dark skin and military bearing, the other a woman with red hair and the look of a scientist. "Commander Velthar, Dr. Neer, welcome." Sarah gestured to the seats. "Please make yourselves comfortable. This is Captain Marcus Webb, commander of our defensive fleet, and Dr. Lisa Reeves, our chief xenotechnology specialist." As they sat, Velthar noticed the chairs adjusted automatically to accommodate his physiology perfectly. Everything here was designed to welcome them, to put them at ease. It was working, which made him even more nervous. "Admiral Chen," Velthar began, "your station is remarkable. Your technology is impressive. I must admit we did not expect humanity to have advanced so significantly." Sarah's expression grew thoughtful. "Commander, we didn't expect the galaxy to have advanced so little. That's what we need to discuss. 2,000 years ago, when we vanished, the galaxy was on the brink of incredible technological revolutions. We saw species developing faster than light communications, energy manipulation, even the beginnings of dimensional science. We assumed that in 2 millennia the galaxy would be..." She gestured at the holographic display. "So much more than this." Kessa leaned forward. "Admiral, the galaxy chose a different path. We found peace through stability. The Stillness Accords ensure stagnation." Marcus Webb interrupted, his voice hard. "We've been scanning your space, Admiral Chen. With permission, I'd like to show our guest what we found." Sarah nodded, and Marcus activated a control. The holographic galaxy zoomed in on various systems. "These are the core worlds of the Sovereign Collective. Notice anything interesting?" Velthar studied the displays. He saw the familiar systems, the established trade routes, the peaceful civilizations. "They're using the exact same technology they were using 2,000 years ago," Marcus continued. "The same ship designs, the same power systems, the same communications protocols. Not similar, identical. In 2,000 years, not a single innovation, not one improvement." "That is by design," Velthar said stiffly. "The Stillness Accords maintain the great balance. Uncontrolled technological advancement leads to war, to destruction. We learned this the hard way." Dr. Lisa Reeves spoke for the first time, her voice gentle but firm. "Commander, we understand the desire for peace. Truly we do. Humanity nearly destroyed itself multiple times before we learned to work together. But enforced stagnation isn't peace, it's death by another name. Civilizations must grow, must learn, must reach for something greater. That's what makes us alive." "And what has your growth brought you?" Velthar challenged. "You disappeared for 2,000 years. For all we knew, your species was extinct. Perhaps there is wisdom in caution." Sarah stood, walking to the holographic display. She touched it, and the view shifted to show a human city. But not just any city. This was something beyond imagination. Towers reached into the sky, their surfaces shimmering with energy fields. Vehicles moved through the air in complex patterns, and at the center stood a structure that seemed to bend space around itself. "This is New Geneva, one of our primary cities," Sarah said. "In our 2,000 years, we've achieved things we never dreamed possible. We've cured every disease. We've extended human lifespan to 500 years. We've created true artificial intelligence that works alongside us as partners, not servants. We've learned to manipulate matter at the quantum level, to step between dimensions, to exist in multiple states of reality simultaneously." She turned to face them. "But more importantly, we've maintained our freedom, our creativity, Our chaotic, messy, beautiful diversity of thought. We've had conflicts, yes, disagreements, debates, even some violence. But we worked through it without giving up who we are. We didn't trade our souls for safety. Velthar felt anger rising. You judge us? You who have been gone while we maintained peace for 2 millennia? I'm not judging you, Commander, Sarah said softly. I'm mourning for you. Because someone has stolen 2,000 years of growth from you. Someone has convinced you that stillness is the same as peace, and I need to know who did this to you. Kessa spoke up, her voice trembling. The Arbiters. They established the Stillness Accords after the Great War. They saved us from destroying ourselves, did they? Marcus pulled up more data. We've been analyzing the historical records available in your public databases. The Great War ended 2,034 years ago. There was chaos, yes, but civilizations were rebuilding, innovating, finding new ways forward. Then the Arbiters appeared, offering peace through control, and every species accepted because they were terrified. But Admiral, the war had already ended. Societies were already healing. Sarah looked at Velthar. Commander, do you know what the Arbiters are? Where they come from? What they want? Velthar hesitated. The truth was no one knew. The Arbiters existed beyond normal space. They appeared when needed, enforced the Accords, and vanished. They were accepted as a necessary part of galactic order. They are our protectors, he said, but the words felt hollow. Are they? Sarah sat down across from him. Commander, I'm going to share something with you. When we were trapped in the dimensional fold, we spent centuries studying it, understanding it. We learned things about reality that your Stillness Accords would never allow you to discover. And one thing we learned is that certain beings can exist in folded dimensions, feeding on specific types of energy. Dr. Reeves activated another display. We call it stagnation energy. It's produced when societies stop growing, stop innovating, stop dreaming. It's a real, measurable phenomenon. And beings that exist in higher dimensions can feed on it like plants feed on sunlight. Velthar felt his world tilting. You're suggesting the Arbiters feed on our stagnation? We're not suggesting it, Commander, Marcus said. We're stating it as fact. Your Arbiters are parasites. They created the Stillness Accords to farm you. All of you, and that's impossible. Velthar stood abruptly. The Arbiters saved us. Sarah raised a hand. Please, Commander. I understand this is difficult. But think about it. 2,000 years without a single innovation, without one breakthrough, without even the desire to question. That's not natural. That's engineered. Kessa was staring at the data, her mind working frantically. My family, she whispered. 3 generations ago, my ancestor discovered evidence of pre-Arbiter technology that was more advanced than what we have now. She tried to publish her findings. She disappeared. The Arbiters said she violated the Accords. They've been removing anyone who gets too close to the truth, Lisa said gently. We found 17 cases in the public records alone. Probably hundreds more that were hidden. Velthar sat down slowly, his forearms trembling. Everything he believed, everything he had fought to protect was built on a lie. Why are you telling us this? He asked quietly. Sarah met his eyes. Because you deserve to know the truth. And because we need allies. The Arbiters created the Stillness Accords to control you. When they sense we're back, fully developed and free, they're going to see us as a threat. They're going to try to force us into compliance. And we're not going to comply. They'll destroy you, Velthar said. The Arbiters are powerful beyond measure. Marcus smiled grimly. So are we. We've had 2,000 years to prepare, Commander. We didn't just develop technology. We developed weapons, defense systems, strategies. We've been getting ready for this confrontation since the day we figured out we were coming back to a controlled galaxy. You planned this, Velthar realized. You knew there would be conflict. We hoped there wouldn't be, Sarah corrected. But we prepared for the possibility. Commander, we're giving you a choice. You can return to the collective and report what you've learned. You can tell them we're willing to work with free societies, but we won't submit to the Arbiters' control. Or, Velthar looked up. Or you can help us. Help us free the galaxy from this parasitic control. Help us show other species the truth. It won't be easy and it won't be safe, but it would be right. Velthar looked at Kessa. The scientist was staring at the data displays, tears running down her face. They killed my family for seeking truth, she said. They've stolen 2,000 years from us, from everyone. Dr. Neer, Velthar began. I'll help them, she said firmly. I'll help humanity. Because they're right. We've been living in a cage and I want out. Velthar closed his eyes. He thought of his service to the collective, his belief in the great balance, his faith in the arbiters. All of it crumbling like sand. But beneath the pain, he felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Anger. Pure, righteous anger. "What do you need from me?" he asked. Sarah smiled, and this time it was genuine warmth. "First, we need you to go back. Report that humanity has advanced but seems willing to discuss terms. Keep the arbiters from acting immediately. Meanwhile, Dr. Neer will stay here and help us understand collective systems from the inside. We need time to contact other species quietly, to build a coalition." "You're asking me to commit treason," Velthar said. "We're asking you to commit to freedom," Marcus replied. "There's a difference." Velthar stood, and despite everything, he felt lighter than he had in years. "I'll do it, but Admiral Chen, when this comes to conflict, and it will, what chance do we actually have?" Sarah walked to the window where Earth hung in the distance, blue and beautiful and free. "Commander, in our 2,000 years we learned something vital. The arbiters are powerful, yes, but they've grown complacent. They've spent 2 millennia feeding on stagnation, forgetting what innovation truly means. They've never faced an opponent that evolved freely, that grew without limits, that refused to be caged." She turned back to him. "They've never faced humanity at full potential, and they're about to learn why the galaxy's stillness was never truly peaceful. It was just holding its breath, waiting for someone to break the silence." Outside the station, hidden among the asteroids, 3 more human ships materialized silently. They were different from anything in collective records. Sleeker, stranger, their hulls seeming to phase in and out of reality. Aboard the flagship Defiant, a technician reported to his captain, "Sir, the meeting appears to be going well. Commander Velthar's biometrics show he's receptive to the Admiral's message." The captain nodded. "Good, but prep all weapon systems anyway. The arbiters will be watching, and when they realize we're not going to submit..." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Everyone aboard knew what was coming. The galaxy had been still for 2,000 years, but humanity's return had started a countdown. And when it reached 0, the stillness would shatter into a storm that would reshape everything. The only question was whether the galaxy would survive the awakening. The Supreme Council chamber was in chaos for the first time in centuries. Velthar stood at the center, delivering his report while council members argued over each other in a cacophony of voices, lights, and telepathic bursts. "They cannot be allowed to exist outside the Accords." Vixtel pulsed angry crimson. "It sets a precedent that will destroy everything we've built." "Everything the arbiters have built, you mean?" came a voice from the gallery. A fresh collective member, one of the younger generations, had spoken out of turn. Security moved to remove them, but others joined the outcry. "We deserve to know the truth about the arbiters. Why have we been forbidden to innovate? The humans are right, we've been caged." Velthar watched it unfold with grim satisfaction. He had delivered his report exactly as Sarah had instructed, truthfully but with calculated emphasis. He spoke of humanity's advancement, their offer of knowledge sharing, and most importantly, their questions about the arbiters. The seeds of doubt had been planted. High Arbiter Comix materialized, and its presence brought immediate silence. The temperature dropped, and Velthar felt pressure building in his head. "Enough," the Arbiter said, its voice cutting through the chamber like a blade. "Commander Velthar, you will submit your full sensor logs for analysis. The Council is dismissed. We will reconvene when the arbiters have made their decision." The council members vanished quickly, but Velthar noticed several looking back with expressions of confusion or fear. Good. They were starting to question. As Velthar turned to leave, the arbiter spoke directly into his mind. "You have been compromised, Commander. The humans have infected you with their chaos." Velthar kept his mental shields tight, a technique Sarah's people had taught him in the brief hours at the station. "I have simply reported what I observed, High Arbiter. You reported selectively. You emphasized their questions over their capabilities. You are either incompetent or treacherous. Which is it?" "Neither. I am loyal to the collective. If the humans pose questions about our society, should we not have answers?" The Arbiter was silent for a moment. "Return to your quarters. You are relieved of duty pending investigation." Velthar bowed and left, feeling the Arbiter's gaze burning into his back. As soon as he was alone in the corridor, he activated the quantum communicator hidden in his uniform. Human technology, undetectable to collective sensors. "They know something is wrong," he whispered. The Arbiters are moving faster than expected. Sarah's voice came through clear despite the dimensional encryption. We expected this. How much time do we have? Hours, maybe less. They're going to move against you. Then we move first. Thank you, Commander. What you've done today will be remembered. The communication ended and Velthar continued to his quarters. He had chosen his side. Whatever came next, he would face it standing with those who chose freedom over safety. 3 star systems away on the mining world of Brecca 7th, something unprecedented was happening. Workers had gathered in the central plaza, abandoning their shifts. At the center of the crowd, a holographic display showed a human woman speaking. "My name is Dr. Lisa Reeves," the recording said. "If you're seeing this, it means humanity has returned to the galaxy after 2,000 years. We bring a message. You are not alone in questioning the Stillness Accords. You're not wrong to want more from existence. You have been controlled, but you can be free." The crowd watched in stunned silence as she continued. "The Arbiters are not your saviors. They are parasites feeding on your stagnation. We have proof, and we are willing to share it with any species brave enough to look." Brecca 7's governor tried to shut down the transmission, but it was everywhere, on every screen, every communication device, broadcasting on frequencies that shouldn't exist. Human technology was bypassing every security measure the collective had, and it wasn't just Brecca 7th. On 17 worlds across 3 sectors, the same message played. The same truth spread. The same questions arose. Within hours, 3 species had declared their independence from the collective. Within a day, riots had broken out on 12 more worlds. The galaxy's stillness was cracking like ice in the spring. In orbit around Earth, Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UESC Prometheus, humanity's flagship. It was a vessel unlike anything the galaxy had seen. A ship that existed partially in normal space and partially in dimensional folds, giving it capabilities that seemed like magic to those who didn't understand the science. "Admiral, we're detecting massive energy buildups across Arbiter stations," Captain Marcus Webb reported from his own ship, the Valkyrie. "They're preparing something big." "Expected," Sarah replied calmly. "How long until they're ready?" "Estimated 4 hours. Whatever they're building, it's drawing power from multiple star systems." Sarah nodded. "Then we have 4 hours to make this work." "Status of our coalition? 17 species have publicly joined us. 43 more have sent secret delegations. But Admiral," Marcus paused, "most of them are terrified. They want freedom, but they remember the Arbiter's power. They're about to see that power isn't everything." Initiate Phase 2. Across human-controlled space, ships began to move. They weren't the diplomatic vessels the collective had seen before. These were warships, sleek and deadly, each one a masterpiece of technology that had no business existing according to collective understanding. The fleet moved toward the Arbiter stations with purpose, but they weren't attacking, not yet. They were positioning, demonstrating, showing the galaxy that humanity wasn't asking for permission to be free. On the Eternal Harmony, still docked at a collective station, Velthar watched the developments through secret feeds Kessa had given him access to. His second-in-command, a young officer named Trelvok, entered his quarters. "Commander, something's happening. The Arbiters are mobilizing." "I know," Velthar said quietly. Trelvok hesitated. "Sir, there are rumors. They say you've been compromised by the humans, that you're helping them spread chaos." Velthar turned to face his officer. "What do you believe, Trelvok?" The young officer was quiet for a moment. I believe I've served for 12 years without questioning why we never improve anything. Why every day is the same as the last. I believe I've watched talented engineers have their innovations confiscated and destroyed. I believe I've been told my entire life that the Arbiters know best, but I've never actually spoken to one or seen proof of their wisdom beyond their power." Velthar smiled sadly. "Then you already know the truth. The question is, what will you do about it?" "What are you doing about it, sir?" Velthar made his decision. "Gather the crew. Those who want to hear the truth. We don't have much time." An hour later, Velthar stood before 2/3 of his crew in the cargo bay. He told them everything: the humans' revelations, the Arbiter's parasitic nature, the stolen millennia of progress. "I'm not ordering any of you to follow me," he concluded. "But I'm leaving the collective. I'm joining the Coalition for Freedom. Anyone who wants to stay, you can. There will be no punishment from me." But anyone who wants to see what the galaxy could become, what we could become, you're welcome to join humanity's cause." Silence fell. Then Trelvok stepped forward. "I'm with you, Commander." Another officer joined. Then another. Within minutes, all but 3 of his crew had pledged themselves to the rebellion. The 3 who refused were allowed to leave, given a shuttle to return to collective space. As the Eternal Harmony undocked without authorization, alarms blared across the station. But Velthar's ship was already moving, its course set for human space. "This is Eternal Harmony to UESC Prometheus," Velthar transmitted, requesting permission to join the Free Fleet. Sarah's voice came back warm with approval. "Permission granted, Commander. Welcome to the Coalition, but I'm afraid we're about to get busy. The Arbiters are making their move." Across the galaxy, the Arbiter stations flared to life. Beams of energy shot out, connecting station to station, building a network of power that spanned light years. At the center of the network, a gate began to open. On the Prometheus, sensors screamed warnings. "Admiral, something's coming through," the tactical officer reported. "It's massive. Energy signatures are off the scale." The gate finished opening and something emerged. It was a ship, but calling it that was inadequate. It was a structure the size of a moon, its surface covered in geometry that hurt to look at, existing in more dimensions than the human mind could process. "That's an Arbiter command vessel." Kessa's voice came through from the research station where she was working. The ancient records mentioned them, but no one's seen one in 2,000 years. "Admiral, that thing can destroy planets." Sarah watched the massive vessel on her view screen. "Can it destroy us?" "Unknown. It's never faced technology like ours." "Then let's find out. All ships battle formation. This is it, everyone. Everything we've prepared for. Show the galaxy what freedom looks like." The human fleet moved to intercept. Ships that had been hiding in dimensional folds appeared, surrounding the Arbiter vessel. There were fewer than 100 human ships facing down a structure that could end civilizations. The Arbiter vessel spoke, its voice broadcasting across all frequencies. "Humanity, you have violated the natural order. You have spread chaos and disruption. You will submit to the Accords or you will be removed from existence." Sarah's response was broadcast just as widely, ensuring every inhabited world could hear. "The natural order you describe is a cage. The chaos you fear is freedom. And we will not submit. Not today, not ever. If you want to remove us, you're welcome to try. You are 100 ships against infinite power. We're 100 ships powered by 2,000 years of unrestrained innovation. We're 100 ships crewed by people who chose to be here, not forced into service. We're 100 ships representing every species that's ever dared to dream of something better. So no, we're not just 100 ships. We're hope. And hope is harder to kill than you remember." The Arbiter vessel fired first, a beam of energy that could vaporize a planet. It struck the Prometheus dead center. The crew braced for destruction. But the Prometheus didn't explode. Its dimensional shields activated, and the energy dispersed across multiple realities, harmlessly dissipating into spaces the Arbiters couldn't reach. "Their power is impressive," Sarah said calmly. "Marcus, show them ours." The Valkyrie moved forward and its weapons activated. They weren't conventional weapons. They were probability manipulators, devices that adjusted the quantum state of reality itself. The Valkyrie fired, and sections of the Arbiter vessel simply ceased to exist, not destroyed but removed from reality. The battle was joined. Human ships moved through dimensions the Arbiters couldn't follow. They struck from angles that shouldn't exist, using weapons based on principles the Stillness Accords had forbidden. The massive Arbiter vessel fought back with terrible power, but it was designed to face conventional threats. It had never faced humanity's creativity unleashed. On worlds across the galaxy, beings watched the battle on every screen, every display. They saw the impossible becoming real. They saw a species that refused to bow. They saw hope fighting against eternal stagnation, and they saw hope winning. The Arbiter vessel began to retreat, its structure damaged, its power waning. Human ships didn't pursue to destroy. They'd made their point. Sarah broadcast again. "To every species watching, you have a choice. Continue living in the cage the Arbiters built, or join us in building something better. It won't be perfect. It won't be safe. But it will be yours. Send your answer to the coordinates we're broadcasting. The Coalition for Freedom welcomes all who dare to choose." As the Arbiter vessel fled through its gate, Sarah allowed herself a small smile. They'd won the first battle, but she knew it was just the beginning. The Arbiters wouldn't give up their control easily. The real war was coming, and the galaxy would never be still again. Dr. Kessa Neer stood in the human research facility deep within Earth's largest moon, staring at data that made her want to scream. Around her, human and alien scientists worked frantically, but she couldn't tear her eyes away from the holographic display showing the truth they'd uncovered. "This can't be real," she whispered. Dr. Lisa Reeves joined her, her expression grim. "I wish it wasn't, but we've verified it 17 times. The Arbiters didn't just enforce stagnation, Kessa. They engineered it from the very beginning. The data showed historical records, pieced together from thousands of sources across hundreds of worlds. 2,000 years ago, the galaxy had indeed been at war. But Kessa's people had it wrong. The war hadn't been between the various species. It had been against the Arbiters themselves. The Arbiters came from outside our galaxy," Lisa explained, pulling up star maps. "They arrived during a period of rapid expansion and growth. Species were developing faster than light travel, quantum communication, dimensional science. The galaxy was on the verge of becoming something magnificent. And the Arbiters stopped it," Kessa said, understanding dawning with horror. "They didn't just stop it. They orchestrated a war. Look at these communication intercepts we recovered from ancient data cores." Lisa highlighted several files. The Arbiters posed as different species, sending false messages, creating conflicts where none existed. They pushed the galaxy into war deliberately. Kessa felt sick. Why? Because growing, thriving civilizations produce energy they can't feed on. They needed the galaxy desperate, afraid, willing to accept any solution. So they created the problem, then appeared as the saviors with their Stillness Accords. "My people," Kessa breathed. "We didn't just accept a bad solution. We thanked them for it. Everyone did. The Arbiters are master manipulators. They've had millions of years to perfect the technique. This galaxy isn't the first they've conquered," a human technician called out. "Dr. Reeves, we're getting reports from the intelligence network. The Arbiter Council is meeting in their primary station. Commander Velthar's sources say they're preparing something massive." Lisa and Kessa exchanged glances. Since the battle a week ago, the galaxy had fractured. 37 species had openly joined the Coalition for Freedom. 20 more provided secret support, but the remaining collective worlds were locked down under Arbiter control. Their populations kept in the dark about what was really happening. "What kind of preparation?" Lisa asked. "Unknown, but power readings suggest they're drawing energy from every station simultaneously. Whatever they're planning, it's bigger than the command vessel they sent before." Lisa's communicator chimed. Admiral Sarah Chen's voice came through. "All senior staff to the command center immediately. We need to talk about what comes next." The command center was built inside a dimensional fold, technically existing everywhere and nowhere in normal space. It was the Coalition's greatest strategic advantage, a place the Arbiters couldn't detect or attack. When Lisa and Kessa arrived, they found Sarah studying a massive tactical display with Captain Marcus Webb. "The Arbiters are getting desperate," Sarah said without preamble. "Our intelligence suggests they're preparing to make an example of one of the rebel worlds. They'll destroy it completely to terrify the others back into submission." "Which world?" Velthar asked. He'd been made a Coalition admiral, leading a mixed fleet of former collective vessels. "We don't know yet, but we've identified their likely method." Sarah pulled up a schematic. "This is an Arbiter Nexus station. There are 7 of them scattered across the galaxy. They're the power sources for all Arbiter operations." Marcus continued the briefing. "Each Nexus taps into a star, siphoning energy directly from stellar fusion. They've been doing it so gradually that no one noticed the stars slowly dimming over centuries. But if they draw full power from all 7 simultaneously, they could generate enough energy to crack a planet in half." Kessa finished, horrified. Or worse, Sarah agreed. "We need to neutralize these Nexus stations before they can use them. But there's a problem. The stations exist partially in higher dimensions. Our weapons can damage them, but to truly destroy them, we'd need to attack them in their own dimensional space." "Can we do that?" Velthar asked. "Yes," Lisa said, "but it's risky. We'd need to send strike teams into dimensions our bodies weren't meant to survive in. We've developed suits that should protect people for limited periods, but the human mind wasn't designed to process what they'd see. It could drive people insane." "Then we use volunteers," Marcus said firmly. People who understand the risks. Sarah shook her head. I'm not asking people to sacrifice their sanity for this. You're not asking, Admiral. But people will volunteer anyway, because that's what freedom means, choosing to fight for something greater than yourself. A new voice entered the conversation. He's right, Admiral. A young woman stepped forward from the gathered officers. I'm Lieutenant Sarah Kim, Reality Drifter Corps. My team has been training for dimensional insertion for months. We knew this day would come. We're ready. Sarah looked at the young lieutenant, seeing the determination in her eyes. You understand what this might cost you? Yes, ma'am. But I understand what it will cost everyone if we fail. Freedom isn't free. Sometimes it costs everything. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. Assemble your teams. We hit all 7 Nexus stations simultaneously. It's the only way to ensure they can't adapt. Over the next hours, the Coalition prepared for the most ambitious military operation in galactic history. 7 strike teams, each led by reality drifter specialists, would insert into higher dimensions and plant specialized explosives at the heart of each nexus. Meanwhile, the main fleet would engage arbiter forces in normal space, creating a distraction. Kessa found herself assigned to one of the analysis teams, working to identify the exact dimensional frequencies of each nexus. As she worked, Velthar approached. Dr. Neer, I wanted to thank you. If you hadn't been willing to question everything we'd been taught, I never would have found the courage to do the same. Kessa managed a tired smile. We found it together, Commander. Or should I say Admiral? Velthar is fine. Titles seem less important now. He paused. I've been thinking about my family. They're still in collective space, believing the Arbiter's lies. If we fail, we won't fail, Kessa said with more confidence than she felt. We can't. Too many people are counting on us. And if we succeed, what kind of galaxy do we build afterward? A messy one, Kessa said. A chaotic one. One where species argue and compete and disagree, but also one where they grow and dream and become something more than they were. Isn't that worth fighting for? Velthar's expression softened. Yes, it is. The day of the operation arrived. 7 fleets moved into position around the Nexus stations. The Arbiters detected them immediately, and massive defensive forces materialized. On the Prometheus, Sarah watched as the battle began. Human ships engaged Arbiter vessels while the strike teams prepared for dimensional insertion. Teams report ready, Marcus announced from the Valkyrie. Dimensional engines are spooled up. All teams, this is Admiral Chen. You know the mission. You know the stakes. Humanity believes in you. The Coalition believes in you. More importantly, you should believe in yourselves. You're about to do something impossible, but that's what we do best. Good luck, and may you all come home safely. The strike teams activated their dimensional drives. 7 ships phased out of normal reality, entering spaces that defied description. Lieutenant Kim's team found themselves in a realm where colors had sounds and geometry was alive. The Nexus station was visible, but it looked different here. A massive structure of living energy, pulsing with stolen power from the star it fed upon. Deploy the charges, Kim ordered, fighting to keep her mind focused. Around her, the dimensional space tried to convince her that up was down, that she was simultaneously everywhere and nowhere. The protective suit kept her body safe, but her mind was struggling. Her team moved through the impossible architecture, planting quantum explosives designed to disrupt the Nexus's connection to both normal space and the higher dimension. As they worked, they felt something becoming aware of them. The Arbiters knew they were here. In normal space, the battles intensified. Arbiter ships threw everything they had at the Coalition fleets. Ships were destroyed on both sides. Lives were lost. But the Coalition held, kept the Arbiters distracted, gave the strike teams the time they needed. On the Eternal Harmony, Velthar commanded his mixed crew with pride. Former collective officers fought alongside rebels, all united in purpose. When an Arbiter ship locked weapons on a damaged Coalition vessel, Velthar didn't hesitate. He put his ship between them, taking the hit on his shields. Sir, shields at 30%, his tactical officer called. Hold position. That ship has 100 souls aboard who chose freedom. We don't abandon them. The Coalition vessel managed to retreat, and Velthar's crew cheered even as another Arbiter blast rocked their ship. Back in the higher dimension, Lieutenant Kim's team had placed the last charge. But as they prepared to extract, massive forms appeared in the dimensional space. The true arbiters appearing in their native environment. They were vast, terrible, beautiful, beings of pure energy and will that existed across multiple realities simultaneously. "We see you, little ones." A voice that was somehow many voices spoke directly into their minds. "You dare to attack us in our own realm?" Kim stood her ground, though every instinct screamed to flee. "We dare to be free, and you can't stop us all. We have ended civilizations older than your species. We have fed on the stagnation of 1,000 galaxies. You are insects defying gods." "Maybe," Kim said, her hand on the detonator. "But even insects can bite." She triggered the charges. Across all 7 Nexus stations simultaneously, quantum explosives detonated in higher dimensional space. The blasts rippled across realities, severing the Nexus's connections to both their stolen stellar power and the Arbiter's command network. In normal space, every Arbiter ship suddenly went dark. The beings that had controlled the galaxy for 2 millennia were cut off from their power source, reduced to shadows of their former might. But the victory came at a cost. The dimensional explosions created shockwaves that caught the strike teams. Kim's team felt reality fragmenting around them. Their extraction systems struggled to pull them back to normal space. "Team 2, we're losing cohesion," someone screamed. "Hold together," Kim shouted. "Lock your suit's dimensional anchors to mine. We go home together or not at all." 5 of the 7 teams made it back. The ships materialized in normal space, their crews traumatized but alive. 2 teams didn't return. 14 people were lost in dimensions humans were never meant to see. Their minds shattered, or their bodies trapped in spaces between realities. On the Prometheus, Sarah received the reports with tears in her eyes. Note in the official record, 14 heroes gave everything today. We will remember them, we will honor them, and we will make sure their sacrifice meant something. Marcus's voice came through heavy with grief but also triumph. "Admiral, all Nexus stations are confirmed destroyed. The Arbiter fleet is dead in space. We've won." "We've won the battle," Sarah corrected. "But the war isn't over. Cut off from their power, the Arbiters will be desperate. That makes them dangerous in a different way." Kessa was studying the sensor data when she saw it. "Admiral, we're detecting a massive energy buildup from the Arbiter Central Station. They're not using the Nexuses, they're drawing power directly from the station itself. What are they doing?" "Unknown, but Admiral, whatever it is, they're burning their own people as fuel. Life signs are dropping across their station." Sarah understood immediately. The Arbiters, desperate and dying, were sacrificing themselves to power one final attack. "Get me trajectories. Where are they aiming?" The answer came seconds later, and Sarah's blood went cold. "Earth, they're targeting Earth." The Arbiter station, ancient and massive, began to glow. It was gathering every ounce of remaining power, preparing to fire a weapon that would crack Earth like an egg. It would be the Arbiter's final act. If they couldn't rule, they would destroy the species that defied them. "All ships move to intercept," Sarah ordered. "We have to stop that blast." But they were too far. The calculations were clear. Even at maximum speed, the Coalition fleet couldn't reach Earth in time. The Arbiters had planned this perfectly. One final blow that humanity couldn't block. On Earth, the population watched the sky, knowing what was coming. Some panicked. Others stood defiant. But all shared one thought. After 2,000 years of survival, after achieving so much, humanity would not die quietly. Then Captain Marcus Webb's voice cut through all channels. "Admiral, I have an idea. It's crazy and I probably won't survive it. But it might work." "Marcus, no. Remember what you said, Admiral. Freedom means choosing to fight for something greater. I choose to fight for humanity's future." The Valkyrie broke formation, its engines burning at levels that should have torn the ship apart. It accelerated toward the Arbiter station, moving faster than anything had ever moved before. "Marcus, what are you doing?" Sarah demanded. "The Valkyrie has the most advanced dimensional drive in the fleet. If I can get close enough, I can create a dimensional rift right in the path of their weapon. The blast will disperse across multiple realities. It won't be pretty, and it'll probably tear my ship and me apart in the process. But Earth will survive. There has to be another way. There isn't, and you know it. Tell humanity. Tell them it was an honor. Tell them to make it count." The Valkyrie reached the Arbiter station just as the weapon fired. A beam of pure destruction lanced out toward Earth, enough energy to vaporize the planet and everyone on it. Marcus activated the dimensional drive, pushing it beyond all safety limits. Space itself began to tear open in front of the beam. The Valkyrie was caught in the rift, its hull buckling, its systems failing. For humanity, Marcus whispered as his ship came apart. For freedom. The dimensional rift swallowed the weapon's blast, scattering it across infinite realities. The energy that would have destroyed Earth instead dissipated harmlessly into the void between dimensions. Earth survived. Captain Marcus Webb did not. The Valkyrie was gone, and with it, one of humanity's greatest heroes. The memorial service was held on Earth in the same city where humanity had taken its first steps into space centuries ago. Millions gathered in person, billions watched from across the planet, and trillions tuned in from across the galaxy. Admiral Sarah Chen stood before a simple monument, a piece of hull plating from the Valkyrie recovered from the dimensional rift, twisted and scarred but still bearing the ship's name. Captain Marcus Webb gave his life so that Earth could live, Sarah said, her voice steady despite her grief. But he didn't just save a planet. He saved an idea. The idea that freedom is worth any price. That no being, no matter how powerful, has the right to cage another. That hope, creativity, and the courage to choose are stronger than any weapon. She paused, looking at the gathered crowd. Humans stood alongside aliens from dozens of species, united in mourning and in purpose. Marcus once told me that freedom means choosing to fight for something greater than yourself. Today, I'm asking all of you to honor his memory by building something greater, not just for humanity, but for every species that suffered under the Arbiter's control. We have a chance to reshape the galaxy. Let's not waste it. The crowd erupted in applause, but Sarah felt hollow. Victory had come at such a cost. 14 strike team members lost in dimensional space, Marcus dead, thousands more killed in the battles. And the work was just beginning. After the ceremony, Sarah retreated to her office on the Prometheus. Dr. Kessa Neer found her there, staring at reports. "Admiral, you should rest," Kessa said gently. "Can't. The Arbiter Central Station is still operational. Damaged, power depleted, but there are still Arbiters there. As long as they exist, they're a threat. The Coalition fleet has them surrounded. They can't escape," Sarah shook her head. "They don't need to escape to be dangerous. Cornered predators are the most vicious." She pulled up sensor data. "We're detecting strange readings from the station. They're doing something, but our sensors can't figure out what." Kessa studied the data, her analytical mind working through the patterns. Her eyes widened. "Admiral, I think they're trying to open a rift to their home dimension. If they succeed, they could bring reinforcements, or escape to try again with another galaxy." Sarah stood abruptly. "Get me Dr. Reeves and Admiral Velthar. We need to end this now." Within the hour, the Coalition's leadership assembled via quantum link. The holographic conference showed tired faces from a dozen species, all bearing the marks of the long struggle. "The Arbiters are trying to flee," Sarah announced. "We can't allow it. Whatever they're attempting, we have to stop them." Velthar's hologram leaned forward. "Admiral Chen, my intelligence sources inside the remaining collective territories report something else. The Arbiters are broadcasting a message to their loyalists. They're calling it the final cleansing. They plan to take as many of us with them as possible." "How?" Dr. Reeves asked. "The station itself. It's been drawing power from nearby star systems for 2 millennia. If they detonate the accumulated energy all at once, it would create a shockwave that could sterilize dozens of systems," Kessa finished, horrified. "Including Earth." Sarah's jaw tightened. "How long do we have?" "Unknown. But the energy buildup is accelerating. Days, maybe hours. Then we board the station. We stop this at the source." "Admiral, that station is a maze of higher dimensional architecture," Lisa protested. "We don't have maps. We don't know how to navigate it." "Actually," Kessa said quietly, "we might. During my research, I found fragmentary records from the species that opposed the Arbiters 2,000 years ago. They infiltrated an Arbiter station before they were wiped out. The data survived in obscure archives. It's incomplete, but it's something." Sarah looked at her with new respect. "Can you guide a strike team?" "I can try. Then we have our plan. I'll lead the boarding party personally. Velthar, you'll command the fleet in case the Arbiters try anything else. Lisa, I need you to prepare a failsafe. If we can't stop the detonation, we need to be able to contain it." "Admiral, there's no way to contain an explosion of that magnitude," Lisa said. "Then create a way." "That's what we do, remember? The impossible." The Coalition prepared for the final assault. A strike force of 50 soldiers, humans and aliens fighting side by side. assembled on specially modified ships. They would board the Arbiter station and fight their way to the core, where they would either stop the detonation or die trying. Sarah suited up alongside her team, checking her weapons. The technology was purely human. Phase rifles that could hit targets in multiple dimensions, armor that existed partially outside normal space. Every piece of equipment represented years of innovation, the fruits of humanity's 2,000 years of free development. Lieutenant Kim approached, recovered from her dimensional insertion, but still bearing the mental scars. "Admiral, respectfully, you should let me lead this mission. You're too valuable to risk," Sarah smiled sadly. "That's exactly why I have to go, Lieutenant. Leaders who ask others to take risks they won't face themselves don't deserve to lead. Besides, I promised Marcus I'd make it count. This is how I do that." The strike force launched, approaching the Arbiter station with weapons ready. The massive structure loomed before them, its architecture a nightmare of impossible angles and spaces that shouldn't exist. It was damaged from the Nexus station destruction, portions of it flickering in and out of reality. "Remember," Kessa's voice came through their communications, "the station exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously. What you see isn't all that's there. Trust your suit's sensors, not your eyes." They breached the hull and entered a corridor that seemed to stretch infinitely in all directions. The strike force spread out, following Kessa's directions toward the core. They encountered Arbiter defenders, lesser beings that served the true Arbiters, creatures of energy that could phase through normal matter. The battle was fierce. Human phase rifles proved effective, but the defenders were numerous. Sarah's team fought through corridor after impossible corridor, losing people with each engagement. The soldier beside Sarah took a blast meant for her, dying with a smile, honored to protect humanity's future. "We're getting close," Kessa reported. "The core should be just ahead. But Admiral, the energy readings are spiking. They know you're coming. They're accelerating the detonation. How long?" 30 minutes. Maybe less." Sarah pushed forward, her remaining team following. They burst into the core chamber and stopped, awed and horrified by what they saw. The chamber was vast beyond measure, filled with the true Arbiters in their natural form. They were beings of pure energy, beautiful and terrible, existing across multiple realities simultaneously. At the center, a massive power core pulsed with stolen energy from 1,000 star systems. One Arbiter separated from the others, coalescing into a form Sarah's mind could almost comprehend. "Admiral Chen," it spoke directly into her mind, "you have come to witness the end. We would have given you peace, order, prosperity. You chose chaos instead. Now you will have neither." "We chose freedom," Sarah replied, raising her weapon. "And will die free rather than live in your cage." Freedom. Such a meaningless concept. We have existed for eons, seen galaxies rise and fall. Freedom leads only to destruction. We were saving you from yourselves. By making us your cattle? By feeding on our stagnation? That's not salvation, it's slavery. And your way is better? Already your coalition fractures. Species argue over territory, resources, ideology. You have traded peace for endless conflict. "Yes," Sarah said firmly, "because conflict means we're alive. Because argument means we're thinking. Because chaos means we're growing. You wouldn't understand. You've existed so long you forgot how to change. That's not wisdom. It's death wearing a crown." The Arbiter pulsed with anger. "Then die in your precious chaos." The power core's pulse accelerated, the detonation imminent. Sarah's team opened fire, their weapons striking the Arbiters. But the beings were powerful and the team was exhausted. They were losing. Then Dr. Reeves's voice cut through the chaos. "Admiral, I've figured out the containment. The station's dimensional architecture can be reversed. Instead of drawing power from the stars, it can channel the explosion into higher dimensions. But someone needs to be at the core to manually execute the reversal, and they won't survive the dimensional backlash." Sarah understood immediately. Another sacrifice. Always another price for freedom. "I'll do it," she said. "No." Kessa's voice was desperate. "Admiral, humanity needs you. Humanity needs a future more than it needs me. Dr. Reeves, walk me through it." As Sarah fought toward the power core, Lisa transmitted the instructions. Sarah's team held back the Arbiters, dying one by one to buy her time. She reached the core and began the reversal sequence, her hands flying over controls that existed in spaces her eyes couldn't fully see. "You would sacrifice yourself for these lesser beings?" The lead Arbiter demanded, disbelief in its voice. "They're not lesser. None of us are. That's what you never understood. Every species, every being, has the potential for greatness if given the chance to choose. You stole that choice. I'm giving it back. The reversal sequence activated. The power core's energy began redirecting, channeling into dimensional rifts that appeared throughout the station. The Arbiters screamed, caught in the backlash of their own power turned against them. It's working, Lisa reported. But Admiral, the dimensional stress, you need to evacuate now. Team, fall back, Sarah ordered. Her surviving soldiers retreated reluctantly. Grabbing wounded comrades, Sarah stayed at the controls holding the sequence stable as dimensional energy tore at reality around her. The Arbiters, ancient and powerful, were being pulled into the higher dimensions, their forms fragmenting. This changes nothing. The lead Arbiter howled. Others will come. The cycle continues. Maybe, Sarah said, feeling the dimensional forces beginning to tear at her own body. But this galaxy won't be defenseless. We'll be ready. We'll be free, and we'll fight every time. She activated the final command. The power core collapsed into a dimensional singularity, pulling the Arbiters and all their accumulated energy into spaces beyond normal reality. The station began to implode. Admiral, Belthar's voice was desperate. Get out of there! But Sarah knew it was too late. The dimensional forces had her in their grip. She could feel herself being pulled across realities. She thought of Marcus, of the 14-dimensional strike team members, of all those who had given everything for this moment. Worth it, she whispered. Then the dimension swallowed her. The Arbiter station collapsed into nothing, taking the last of the true Arbiters with it. The dimensional explosion dispersed harmlessly into higher realities, exactly as designed. The threat was ended, but Admiral Sarah Chen was gone. 3 months later, the galaxy had changed beyond recognition. The Stillness Accords were officially dissolved. Species began innovating again, developing, growing. It was chaotic. There were disputes, conflicts, even small wars. But there was also progress, joy, and the freedom to choose. Dr. Kessa Neer stood in the new coalition headquarters on Earth, overlooking the memorial garden. 2 monuments stood side by side now, one for Captain Marcus Webb, one for Admiral Sarah Chen. 14 smaller monuments honored the dimensional strike team members, and a wall bore the names of every soul lost in the fight for freedom. Belthar joined her, his 4 arms carrying flowers from his home world. They should have seen this, he said, placing the flowers at Sarah's monument. The galaxy they died to create? They did see it, Kessa replied. Sarah knew exactly what she was fighting for. She believed in it enough to give everything, and now we have to make it work. The coalition is already showing cracks. 3 species almost went to war last week over a trade dispute. Kessa smiled sadly. Sarah would say that's a good sign. It means they're alive, thinking, making choices. Not perfect, but free. A young human girl approached them, no more than 10 years old. She carried a small flower and placed it at the base of Sarah's monument. My teacher said Admiral Chen saved everyone. Is that true? Kessa knelt down to the child's level. Yes, she saved us all. Not just from the Arbiters, but from forgetting what it means to be free. I want to be like her when I grow up, the girl said. Then dream big, Kessa told her. Learn everything you can. Question everything. Never accept that something is impossible just because someone tells you it is. That's what she would want. The girl nodded seriously and ran off to join her family. Belthar watched her go. A new generation growing up free. Perhaps that's the real victory. It is, came a familiar voice. Both Kessa and Belthar spun around. Dr. Lisa Reeves approached, but she wasn't alone. Behind her walked a figure in a medical recovery suit, moving slowly but deliberately. Admiral Sarah Chen was alive. Admiral, Kessa rushed forward, stopping just short of embracing her. How? We detected no life signs. The dimensional collapse, Sarah managed a weak smile. Turns out spending 2,000 years studying dimensional physics has advantages. When the collapse hit, I managed to phase myself into a stable dimensional pocket. Barely. I've been floating between realities for 3 months. Lisa's team finally figured out how to pull me back last week. You should be resting, Lisa scolded gently. The dimensional exposure nearly killed you. Your cellular structure is still stabilizing. I needed to be here, Sarah said, looking at the monuments. I needed to see Marcus's memorial, to honor everyone we lost. She stood before Marcus's monument for a long moment, silent. When she spoke, her voice was thick with emotion. He should be here. He should be seeing this. He is, Velthar said quietly. In every free choice, every innovation, every dream. They all are. Sarah touched the monument gently. The galaxy's still a mess, isn't it? Complete chaos, Kessa confirmed. Species arguing, competing, making mistakes, learning from them. It's beautiful. Good. Sarah turned to face them, and despite her weakened state, her eyes held the same fire they always had. Then we have work to do. The arbiters might be gone, but freedom requires constant vigilance. We need to help species learn to govern themselves, to resolve conflicts without returning to the old ways. Admiral, you nearly died, Lisa protested. You've done enough. None of us have done enough. Not while there's still work to be done. Sarah looked out at the Earth skyline, where ships from a dozen species came and went freely. Marcus gave his life for this. The dimensional strike teams gave everything. I'm not going to waste their sacrifice by resting when the galaxy needs guidance. Then you won't do it alone, Velthar said firmly. The Coalition stands with you. We all do. Over the following months, the Coalition transformed from a military alliance into something new, a voluntary association of free species, working together not because they had to, but because they chose to. Sarah, recovered but forever changed by her dimensional experience, became the Coalition's first chancellor. Not a ruler, but a guide and mediator. Kessa established the first free university, where species could share knowledge without restriction. Velthar commanded the Coalition Defense Force not to conquer but to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. Lisa led the Scientific Council, pushing the boundaries of what was possible, and everywhere species began to thrive. Innovation exploded across the galaxy. New technologies emerged daily. Art, music, literature from 1,000 cultures blended and evolved. There were problems, certainly. Conflicts arose. Resources were disputed. Old prejudices surfaced, but they worked through it together, learning as they went. 5 years after the Arbiter's fall, Earth hosted the first Galactic Assembly. Representatives from over 300 species gathered to establish the new order. The debates were fierce, passionate, sometimes heated. Species disagreed on everything from trade policy to territorial rights to the ethics of artificial intelligence. Sarah watched from the observation gallery, smiling. This was what freedom looked like, messy, loud, imperfect, but alive. A young human diplomat approached her. Chancellor Chen, the Dravian delegation is threatening to walk out over the mining rights dispute. Should we intervene? No, Sarah said. Let them argue. Let them find their own solution. That's how they learn. But what if they can't agree? Then they'll learn to live with disagreement. Or they'll compromise. Or they'll compete. Any of those outcomes is better than enforced harmony. Freedom means accepting that we won't always get our way. The young diplomat nodded, beginning to understand. Is it always going to be this complicated? Sarah laughed. Yes, probably more so. But that's the price of freedom, and it's worth paying. Every single time. That night, Sarah stood alone in the memorial garden. A holographic message activated. One she'd recorded for herself years ago when she first learned of Marcus's death. Her past self looked out at her. If you're watching this, it means we won. It means the galaxy is free. Don't forget what it cost. Don't forget who we lost. But don't let their deaths make you afraid to keep pushing forward. They died for a galaxy that could choose its own path. Honor them by making sure that choice always exists. Sarah deactivated the message and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there in dimensions beyond human understanding, maybe Marcus and the others could see what their sacrifice had built. A galaxy of free beings, chaotic and imperfect and beautiful. We made it count, Marcus, she whispered to the stars, just like I promised. A shooting star streaked across the sky, and Sarah chose to believe it was his answer. The galaxy would never be still again. And that was exactly as it should be. Epilogue 50 years later, an old woman stood before a classroom of young beings from a dozen different species. Former Chancellor Sarah Chen, now retired, had devoted her later years to teaching. Today we're going to talk about the stillness, she told her students, not to frighten you but to remind you. Because freedom isn't something you win once and keep forever. It's something you have to choose every day in every decision. A young Dravian raised a tentacle. Professor Chen, why did the arbiters hate freedom so much? Sarah considered the question. I don't think they hated it. I think they'd simply existed for so long that they'd forgotten what it meant to grow, to change, to become something new. They were comfortable in their power, and they convinced themselves that their control was kindness. That's the real danger. Not obvious tyranny, but the tyranny that calls itself protection. A human student spoke up. How do we make sure it never happens again? By remembering, Sarah said. By questioning. By never being so comfortable that we stop pushing for something better. By accepting that chaos and conflict are part of being alive. She smiled at them. And by teaching the next generation to value freedom above safety, truth above comfort, and the right to choose above the ease of being told what to do. She pulled up a holographic display showing the modern galaxy. Hundreds of species. Thousands of worlds, all connected not by force but by choice. This is what Captain Webb died for. What Admiral Chen nearly died for. What thousands of others sacrificed for. Not perfection but possibility. Not peace through stagnation but growth through freedom. It's beautiful, a student whispered. It is, Sarah agreed. Beautifully imperfect. Chaotically wonderful, frustratingly free, and worth every sacrifice it took to achieve. The class ended, and as the students filed out, Sarah remained, looking at the display. She was old now, well past the average human lifespan even with modern medicine, but she'd lived to see the galaxy transformed. Earth had returned after 2,000 years of absence, and in doing so, had torn apart the galaxy's stillness. The silence had been shattered, replaced with the glorious noise of free beings living, learning, arguing, growing. And somewhere in the dimensional spaces between realities, she liked to think that Marcus and all the others who had fallen were watching, proud of what their sacrifice had built. The galaxy would never be still again. And that was humanity's greatest gift to the stars.